Hey everyone, this is Roman Prokopchuk, and this is the Digital Savage Experience podcast. Today I have with me Réal Andrews. Réal is an Emmy Award winning actor, author, producer, podcaster, humanitarian, entrepreneur, fitness expert, and action coach. Pretty much a jack of all trades. Thank you for joining me today.
Hey, Roman, thank you for having me. I'm so excited. I'm grateful to be here.
It's a pleasure having you on. So tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you get to where you are today?
Yeah, okay. Well, we'll take you way back as far as I can remember. I grew up in a small town, North Vancouver, BC. I was an only child. My mom was a single mom for the most part, even though I always had a dad per se, but and I remember things like my mom having three, four jobs back in the day. She was a bank teller, was one of them, taking me to the bank, keeping me under the counter, that kind of thing. So we grew up on the other side of the tracks. I graduated from a class of 1200. I was the only African American. So, you know, I didn't know it then, to be honest with you, Roman. I just thought kids were mean, but, now looking back, there was a lot of bullying and racism and stuff like that. I remember my first dream was to make the 84 Olympics. That was like a lot of times you hear the way that people who grew up on the other side of the tracks, the way they get out is, making the NFL or, becoming a professional baseball player or something. And my exit plan, if you will, to get out, to buy my mom her first house, to buy a house was I was going to make the 84 Olympics because back then, people that were making the Olympics and that were winning gold medals would get huge endorsement campaigns and stuff like that. So that was my dream. That was how I was going to get out. But I remember I ran barefoot. I still have my first pair of track spikes. I ran barefoot till grade 7 because we couldn't afford shoes. I have my first track suit. That mom made for me by hand because she didn't want me to not fit in with all the kids who were getting all the cool Nikes and stuff, and it says Black Magic on the back, which is kind of funny. And that's what I did. But what I did have was I had amazing support from my mom and dad and my what I call my dad, but he was my stepdad. My mom every night she said, "Don't dream tonight, son. Dream big." My dad taught me no such word as CANT. I basically erased that from my vocabulary. He also taught me, he always used to say, son, I don't make excuses. I don't take excuses, not even good ones, not even justified ones. And, those are the three main things. There were others, but those are the three main things that became a solid foundation of who I am today. I mean, I still to this day live and die by those things. And, I remember like my mom was so supportive of me that at 13, was it 16, I decided I want to become an actor. And you can imagine my mom sweat, toiled, everything she could do to make me, be able to be in the best coaches in the track scene. But when I came home and said, you know what, I want to become an actor, she didn't even hesitate to say, how can I help you on that journey? It wasn't like, are you kidding me? I've dedicated my whole life, total support. So I remember I started at the bottom in acting. I became an extra. And I remember sitting at a table at lunch. It was a movie called 3D Space Hunter with Molly Ringwald. It was a really crazy movie, had a bunch of stuff. And I was sitting at that table and everybody was talking. There were some stunt men over here and some of the, supporting cast actors. And they were in earshot and people were talking about Hollywood and some of them were talking about how they're going to go to Hollywood. And I spoke up and said, I'm going to go to Hollywood and become a successful actor and walk the red carpet. And they literally laughed at me. They literally, I remember it like it was yesterday, and they were like, less than 3% of SAG even makes a living, and there's no work for black actors. So basically, stay in your lane. Why don't you do something? Go get a normal job. And that, and I remember, I didn't say anything, Roman, but I remember looking right at that guy. And in my head, I said, well, then I'm going to be part of that 3%. And, fast forward, I went on to become a very successful actor. I became an Emmy Award winning actor. It started with me going from, actually there to Toronto. as a model, became a very successful model. I became a first African American stuntman in Canada, played every bad guy you could imagine, and then eventually made the big leap and started playing bigger roles. And what was crazy is I don't know that I knew it was an addictive personality, but I knew that I was an all-in guy. No matter what I don't do nothing less than as you notice, right? From in the podcast room, you guys say something, I literally am doing it before we even finish getting off the thing. And I intentionally sought out what I thought I could protect myself because I'd heard the stories of drug addiction and craziness and partying and all kind of crazy stuff that would happen in Hollywood. And I met this one guy on Police Academy of Four, and he was this picture of health. And he taught me about triathlons. He taught me about this thing called Fit for Life, and I was like, "This is my guy, dude." And I specifically befriended him to surround myself with healthy people, if you will. And for the first couple of years, that was my only outlet, if you will. That was my boy. That was my friend. We did everything together. We went to the beach and everything. And then one night I'm sitting at home and he calls me and he says, "Hey, man, we're having a party over here. There's me and one of my other friends, and there was three girls. So one girl was by herself, and he was like, 'Come on over.' And I was like, 'Yeah, sure, of course.' And I got there, and Roman, I found out that he was basically a Jekyll and Hyde. He was a big time major cocaine dealer, and this whole time, and that was it, dude. That was the beginning of the end. My best friend was a cocaine dealer, addictive personality, never had to pay for it. You can imagine where that went, and that just went on. Many years of just craziness and major addiction and I was just a nightmare, dude, but I did not see that till recently 2 years ago. Because when you're in it, you don't see it. You know what I mean? And I'm sober 2 years now, past Christmas Day. Grateful for that. Um, Building rapidly my family back together, which is just such a blessing because it was, oh my gosh, dude, it was so toxic, Roman. Um, I honestly, oh, sorry, I don't want to get emotional. I honestly thought that my wife was just counting the days until sorry, oh, sorry, that my wife was just counting the days until my kids were old enough, and all of that. I had no relationships with my kids, especially my middle one. And I remember sitting in an AA meeting, and they celebrate your birthdays, and this guy was celebrating his birthday. He was 5 years sober, and he had his family there with him. And I just remember looking at that, going, "That's all I want." But I couldn't see that. I didn't think that would ever be a reality. But they have something called the promises, and fast forward to now, dude. I'm having that. I know I'll grow old with my wife. I know. My middle son, who used to say, "I hope you die. I can't wait till you die. I hate you." My past birthday, this past January 31st, woke me up at 3:30 with a handwritten note, gave me a big hug, which he's never done, told me he loved me and he understood we got work to do. But so that's kind of quick, the 411 journey of me up until till now. And now I'm into network marketing. I found network marketing 14 years ago. That's a big part of who I am and my acting. I'm back on the show, General Hospital. I started that role 27 years ago. I was off for 17 years because of a lot of things, but that's really the quick 411 of it. We could talk about a lot, but that kind of gives you an idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think having kind of a go-getter, kind of addicting personality, it depends who you surround yourself with. Obviously, it can be harnessed to take action, but if you have the wrong people around you, I think anyone with a good framework, if they surround themselves with a bad element, eventually that bad element will kind of break you down. And I think it's one of those things where people think that they can get out of their situations, whatever they're dealing with or going through. But I feel like if they have breath and wake up the next day, they can do something about their situation. And ultimately, it's kind of a you versus you battle. You have to make that distinction and come to the realization you need help, or what I've been doing isn't, right, or isn't the right thing, and make action and take steps towards, rebuilding those relationships and things that may have suffered over that time.
Yeah, amen. I mean, that's pretty much it, right? Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, well, personally, I have a different story in terms of my dad not being there and stuff like that. I mean, I tried my best to mend that, but it was like one of those things. He never even came to terms with, what he was doing or how he acted in terms of,
Mm,
this is how I was. I was never there, so on and so forth. And his kind of a abusive personality and domestic violence and stuff like that. So for me personally, I haven't spoken to him in person in 13 years. I texted
wow.
him. He texts me like happy birthday once in a while. But it's one of those things, like coming to terms, like, yes, like I've forgiven him for my own, sanity, but I won't
Hmm.
necessarily have him in my life when he, took no steps in terms of realizing what he did or kind of mending the relationship.
Yeah, I can't imagine that. My real dad, like I said, he left when I was 3. Um, he came back into my life. It's crazy. I'll tell you a this crazy story. Art imitating life. So, my dad, so whatever that was, 18 or something. I'm in college now, and I went to college for about like 10 days, and then I quit. Decided I wanted to be in a reggae band, grew dreadlocks and everything, and we actually had a pretty successful band. It's called I. Now, my real dad was a musician, and his name was Albert Johnson. That was my real name, Réal Johnson, back in the day. And all of a sudden, one day I'm walking in the music hall, and there's a poster up there, and it says Réal Johnson Band playing at Gastown. And I'm like, because Réal's a weird name, right? So I was like, and Réal Johnson, that's my name. So I went home and I said, Mom, there's a band called Réal Johnson. And she broke down, she started crying because this was a whole elaborate plan to reconnect with me. And he had been reaching out to her, but she didn't want to him to see me or whatever reason. And then she told me what's going on. I went down to the where he was playing one night, and I said, I sat there in the first set, and I know he knew who I was. I was right in the front row, and when they took a break, I went in the back and I walked in and I said, "Hey, do you know who I am?" And he looked at me. He said, and they were all doing drugs, by the way, Roman. Interesting, right? Drugs and alcohol. And he said, "No." I said, "I'm the real Réal Johnson." And I walked out and I never saw him again. I never went back to see him again. I had my dad was Nathan, Andy, and I thought I was good in that way. I found out later on that it was more damaging than I knew at the time. But what was crazy was fast forward to like 4 years ago, I get a part on a show called Days of Our Lives, a soap opera, and I'm playing the character of a dad who's an alcoholic who wants to reconnect with his daughter because he needs a kidney transplant to survive, and he's going to ask her to give her kidney transplant. The reason my dad was trying to reconnect with me because he was an alcoholic. He needed a kidney transplant, and he wanted to. I didn't find out this till later, until after he passed away. But how crazy is that?
Yeah, that's almost kind of not coincidence. And I think, like, relating to my father too is one of those things where, like, you have to identify if someone's a narcissist. So with me, when he asked for anything or showed any kind of affection, there was a reason or ask behind it. So then I would have to sit there and figure out, all right, he's either being nice or trying to be there for me. What is he looking for in return? And there's times and times I gave him the benefit of the doubt, and then always that was the key.
Hmm.
So it's one of those things where it's like me coming to terms with it and talking to people about it, I think was important to kind of let go so it wouldn't impact my relationships in my, adult life. But I mean, it's one of those things that in reflection, I wish that, I had a father that was more present.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I found out, like I said later, I remember, man, I used to have some anger issues, dude. Every now and then, but I mean, like anger, dude. I used to punch walls and break phones and kick windows open and all kind of stuff. And when I met my wife, who's my wife now, praise God, she was the first woman in my life, which is why we're married, I'm sure, who actually stood up to me, was not going to take my crap, you know? And, she basically said, You need to go to therapy or we're not going to be together." And I was like, I don't need therapy, but eventually I went. And so I went to therapy one day, and it was anger management, this one. And I'm sitting there. I finally open up to this lady and I'm talking to her. And she says, "Tell me about your dad." And I like just blew it off. I like, he left me 1-3. I don't care. Really, doesn't make a difference. I go on and on and on. And then as the sessions went on, and she started unveiling that I had problems with abandonment, that I had problems with saying goodbye, that I had problems with this. And then she looks me dead in the eyes and she goes, "And you don't think it has anything to do with that your father left you at 3 years old?" And that's the first time I realized that it was maybe bigger than I ever gave it, permission or whatever.
Yeah, I think it's crazy how like someone has to kind of guide you to that thought. So, I mean, I've definitely been there as well. So, what motivates you to succeed? Obviously, those motivations may have changed over time, but what currently motivates you to succeed?
Um, you know, the number one, I have a few things. On a personal level, like when we talk about the why, my number one thing that motivates me is providing for my family and leaving a legacy. But specifically this, my stepdad, was an amazing man. Um, and he was a fitness expert. That's why I became one. And he was very good at it. He worked his butt off. He made a lot of money. He saved a lot of money. He bought a nice condo for him and mom in Vancouver by the Lonsdale Key because he knew eventually they wouldn't be able to drive. Actually, he was terrible. He crashed so many cars. It's like and he could walk there and get the fresh fruit and all that. So he had it all planned out. He had it all worked out. But what he didn't have planned out was at 62, he got Parkinson's. And he battled that for a long time. He didn't go home to be with the Lord till 87, but he eventually used up his savings. Then he eventually had to sell his condo, and they ended up dying in a $50 cab ride away from each other. And I used to sit at his bedside in the hospital. And because I had network marketing in my life at that time, and I used to talk to my dad about it, like, this would be great. It's a plan B, and blah, blah, blah. And he didn't see it and he didn't do it. And I used to sit there and think, if my dad had network marketing in his life, would the end of his life be different? And we both know it absolutely would. He would have been able to grow old in his house with mom and hire people because, what people don't understand is that, old long term care is about $500 a day. The average person has $2,500, $5,000 in the bank. You do the math. You figure out how long you're going to be able to stay with your loved one. Well, I asked my money man back in the day, well, what happens if you can't pay the bills? It says, where do you think all the homeless people came from? So that motivates the crap out of me because I am not going out like that, dude. I'm going to grow old with my wife in my house, be able to hire people. And, that's number one reason why what motivates me. Also, in terms of, because we're talking network marketing. That's my main thing, what I do in terms of what I'm excited and passionate about. And a lot of people say, well, why would you do network marketing? You're an actor. Because most people, like, they think that's well, here's why. I just booked an amazing job. It was a Jerry Bruckheimer series. I bought my first house. I had matching Yukon Excels, had the whole deal. It was good. I'm top of the world, and it's Christmas Eve, and I get a call and I'm fired. Just like that. You can imagine. That wasn't the best Christmas. Right? And I had a taste of network marketing at that time. And I said, never again am I going to give anybody power over me like that. And then when you talk, you get the leverage where I get to act today because I want to, not because I have to. Big difference, right? Like I wish I had network marketing back in the day when I was starting, because I did a lot of acting roles that I absolutely would not do today, that I wish I could burn. And the last thing would what I call my why behind my why. And that really drives me every day, is fighting for those people who have yet to realize that they have a gift, that they have a calling, that they deserve to walk in excellence, that they deserve to walk in their power. Fighting for mental wellness, fighting for bullying. For me, Roman, it's like I see myself in this Roman um, stadium back in the day, and up in the stands is like Martin Luther King, President Kennedy, my mom, my dad, grandparent, people, the kids being bullied and all that. And every morning, like if I don't want to go to the gym or I don't get up, I see those little eyes looking at me. Come on, coach. Come on, coach. We need you. Fight for us. Or I see my dad or my Martin Luther King. I'm not going to let them down. So that's what motivates me. For a long time, it used to be, and it still does, dude. I mean, I don't say it motivates me. I say it fuels me. I love it when people say you can't. I love it when people say no. I'm like, please tell me I'm not going to do something. Please tell me I'm not going to do something. So I would say that's what fuels me and that's what motivates me.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely driven by kind of leaving a legacy and switching that mindset to legacy. And like you said, I have a thing where I think we spoke on your show about my grandfather passing, and I could have just like took it easy on some things and took time, but I wouldn't think it was fair for him coming here and my parents and my ancestors in terms of being provided opportunities here and not taking advantage of them. So I feel like whatever you're handed, I mean, that moment may be the only time you're giving that opportunity. And if you don't at least try, you'll always regret, the what if. So when you're 30, 40, 50 years down the line thinking, well, what if I, spoke to that person or showed
Mm.
up or did that interview or had that conversation, where my life could be now. So I think it's just taking
Mm.
advantage of whatever you're given and making it work for you. Obviously, the cards people are dealt are different. Some people are coming out of crazy situations that they have the odds stacked against them, but it's situational. Make do of your situation and use it to your advantage.
So good. I don't, yeah, I love that, Roman. You and me are just like that. I don't know if I shared that or no, but I wouldn't. I see the same thing, man. For me, it's like, you know, and I totally, this is the world I live in. It's like every day God puts people in my path. And just like you, man, I know one day I'm going to be sitting there with my higher power, and he's going to be. We're going to look back over your legacy, and I do the best. I know there's going to be some, but I try to minimize it because you know what I'm talking about, Roman. We get that. Oh, stop! Say hi to that person, or you get that voice. You got to call somebody. We're not perfect by any means, but I try to do it more and more because I don't want God, just like you said, to say to me, "Hey, remember that champion that day at the Arco station, and I told you to slow down and say hi to him, but you were too busy. You didn't listen to me, even though I was loud in your head. Let me show you what his life looks like now because you didn't talk to him. Oh, better yet, let me show you what it would have looked like because he has the power to do that had you slowed down and talked to him and been obedient. And I, like you did, I don't want none of that. I don't want none of that.
Yeah, and I mean, for me, it's like being a heart-led entrepreneur and giving back. Like, obviously, we met on Clubhouse, and the amount of time I put in on Clubhouse to help others, but then it's rewarding when you see people take action. People reach out, oh, I built this website for my podcast, and now, I'm getting all these, opportunities from that, or, telling people in terms of technology what they should be doing. Next week, they take action. It's really rewarding, and then it's kind of reciprocated, and then they can help other people and just be successful about it. So I feel it's like a fast track mastermind incubator in that sense. So, what I can do to give back. And I think some people take the mindset of, I'm going to get big and no one can like come up with me, so nobody can eat at my table. Like there's not enough to go around. But I've left a lot of money on the table, clients, because it was simply the right thing to do, or I wanted to help more so than chasing a check. Because I mean, I know my skill set and abilities. If I lost it all, I have the opportunity and the hunger to gain it all back. But
Mm.
those relationships, you're not going to go back, and the what ifs you're not going to create.
Well, yeah, and I'm gonna like give you some props and testimonial because we haven't actually seen each other a lot because I keep missing you on stuff. So I don't know if you were there that day and a lot. So we're going maybe 4 weeks, Roman. Has it been 4 weeks since I first stepped into your morning podcast room? Maybe 4 weeks. It might be the third week. And because of all the, like you say, I mean, I don't even know how you guys do it, dude. You do like three. I'm like, dude, does this guy like have a double or a triple or something? But yeah, you guys show up, you give so much value, you're so available. And because of that, and the key is, I'm going to do a double tendre there. Take action, like we talked about, because a lot of people are just showing up and you're giving them so many gifts and so much volume, they don't do anything with it. But because of your servant hearts, and me taking action in like 4 weeks, I've been doing a podcast for years. Okay. And I love it. It's great. But with what I've learned from you, um, with the connections I've made, oh my gosh, dude, my podcast has gone from like here to here. I have people on my podcast right now. It's insane. It's insane. I'm booked out till mid-April right now, like mid-April. To like it's crazy, and I'm doing like 2, 3, 4 podcasts a day, and I'm booked out till mid-April, right? And that's all because of you. So I'm extremely grateful, and I appreciate you, and it's just amazing, dude. So know that you've made a big difference in this champion's life, massive. I could never repay you, brother.
I appreciate it, but with you, it's taking action. You know what I mean? There's advice that we've given to people just like you in terms of same advice, what you should be doing with your show, how to grow your show equipment, and they're still at where they were, weeks ago. And directly related to that, we didn't expect, because we met on Clubhouse, Pedro, Tanner, and I, and we
Really?
launched a podcast 2 weeks ago because of that, and because we've helped so many people, they supported the podcast. So that launch was a top 50 launch on the charts for
Wow.
entertainment news in like the US and 4 other countries. So we directly attribute it to giving first, and then people got value out of us. So why not support, us from that, because we added value to them.
Boom. There you go, buddy. I love it. And you deserve it.
Thank you. So what's one thing you may have seen as a weakness in yourself in the past that you've turned around and utilized as a strength today?
Mm. Yeah. Procrastination is a big one, which I've turned around. Um, for me, I actually have it written still here on the whiteboard. Procrastination for me came from excellence. Is another thing my dad always taught me. Do everything with excellence. It's got your signature on it. So, and I remember being in a coaching call one day, and this champion, the coach, Susan Sly, said, write this down. It's going to be messy. Just do it. And that clicked for me. I was like, I ran upstairs, a big marker right there. It said it's going to be messy. And so now I just jump in. I just figure things out. But the other thing, if we're being totally transparent and authentic and real, is making it not about me, and truly, honestly, being a servant and making it about others. I mean, I'll just be real, dude. I mean, I've been doing network marketing 14 years, 15 years. I've always been in the top 10 recruiter, if not number one, consistently for 14 years. I've won every incentive. I've earned every trip. I've never missed anything, but it was always about me. Me. Never had any team members on a trip. Never had, and for me, it started with getting sober and starting to do that work and starting to realize how much of a egotistical, narcissistic, I guy I was, you know, and learning to love and like people, and honestly make it. I don't live for Rail anymore. I live for other people, and it's so rewarding. Like you said, it's like my new company. I have the most amazing team ever because I'm showing up different, and we know it's a voluntary army. So I would always attract people before because that's who I was, but they wouldn't hang around. You know what I mean? They quickly would find out. But now it's like, I had 6 people on this last incentive trip. We're on track to already have over 20 people, and I'm sure we'll have even more. you know um help the champion on my team in our first year be able to retire from a toxic job, helping a mother that's, what I'm saying. So to me those victories are invaluable, and the testimonials I get, and the following that I have on, like, the different social media platforms, because and people aren't stupid, you know what I mean. They can tell if you're real or not. They can tell if you're, and that's one of the cool things about Clubhouse. Don't you find that? I don't know what it is. I haven't been able to put my finger on it yet, Roman, but there's something special about Clubhouse. Like, I mean, if you think about it, we're connecting with people on such a high level, like, and making friends, like feeling like knowing each, and we don't even get to see each other. We're just listening to each other on an app. I don't know, man. Something's crazy going on there.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's one of those things, I guess the saying is like real recognizes real. So when you go on
Mm,
Clubhouse in a room, you can usually kind of sift out
I gotta
what the
write that
reason that
down.
people are talking about, what they're doing. So I think usually people can like look and get through that. And people of similar mindsets, or at least I'm 36 at this point, I gravitate to like-minded people that have the same kind of vision or drive. Obviously they may be in different industries, but willing to help each other out, giving them pointers, just like sharing opportunities and things that we've been through that may help them pass something. I think it's like being in the trenches kind of leadership too. So you can lead on a pedestal and just, shout like do this or that, or you can be there with everybody else on the same level and teach them and show them, because when they learn, then they can do that for themselves instead of just, barking orders. I mean, that's how I tried to lead in different leadership roles in former companies before I started my company, where it was like, the founders of the company did reviews, and I'm like, can you do the people that report to me first so they see they're valuable and you value their time and what they're about first? Sometimes they weren't receptive to that, and I'm like, you're going to build morale when you show value and you actually appreciate people and what they contribute to your company. And I'm like, your company is not going to be successful if you just treat people like this. That instance, we had a difference of opinion and we parted ways. But it's one of those things where I try to implement, I think, when I was like 29 turning 30, and that has paid dividends in terms of like that mindset over kind of chasing checks or taking a client just to take a client.
Mm, yeah, so good, man. And right on. Yep. hmm
So what's one piece of advice you can leave with the audience, personal or professional?
Number one, show up, take action. Um, from a professional point of view, is just show up and take action. Consistency is key. That's the number one thing. And be coachable. I know that's three. Um, Personally, is this. I just came to this conclusion just the other day, and here's what I'm going to say. And see, I finally got my head wrapped around it to be able to make it make sense. Um, Everybody, let me put it this way: I have a champion on my team that is a champion. He's in the program like me. He's 7 years sober, but he still smokes weed. We in the world of program know that's not sober. He's still self-medicating, but there's a lot of people that do that. They justify it. Well, I'm not drinking anymore. I'm not doing drugs. It's just smoking weed. It's okay. It's still self-medicating. He's very challenged with his business. And he's like, Coach, I don't get it, man. I work on my, and he does, dude. He's a grinder like you and me. I'm working my butt off. I'm doing the three-way calls with you. I'm enrolling people, but people aren't sticking around. They ain't doing this. Why? And I honestly didn't have the answer. And I'm coming in, and then it hit me. What I recognized was that was me. And it doesn't matter how much personal growth, because network marketing is personal growth to the paycheck. And I spent tens of thousands of dollars on personal growth, trying to be the better person, trying to do that. And it was the same thing. And here's what I'm going to say: until you figure out how to self medicate, let's use that word, from within, starting with your higher power, in my opinion, being able to deal with the stress, anxiety, depression, whatever that is, from within rather than outside, whatever that self medication is, drugs, alcohol, sex, pornography, working too hard, working out too much. Those are all self medicating things if they're not healthy, right? Until you get that right, you're never going to walk in your power. You're never going to walk in your full glory. That's my opinion. And I've said that to my buddy the other day. I said, here's the deal, dude. Tell you let that go. Because he does all the personal growth. He's the personal growth king. And I said, dude, tell you let that go. You're never going to be power. And I will give one other example of this quick. I remember once that was part of the process. I had the number one fastest growing team in this company, and you can imagine as network marketers, I mean, and we were 7-figure income earners in that company, but we plateaued. We weren't growing. And so I'm trying to figure out why. So what I decided to do, because I thought this would fix it, is resign from my team, walk away from the whole team, if you can imagine, start over by scratch and enroll frontline to the number one paycheck in the company. I thought that would fix it, right? I'm going to be the number one guy. I'm going to learn all the tricks, the secrets. And I remember talking to him on the phone. He was in Hawaii. I told him, and he said, hey, listen to me. He said, Réal, he said, if you want to join my team because you want to build your business, I don't want you. But if you want to build your team, join my team because you want to work on your personal growth, be a better husband, better man, I'd love to have you. And of course I said that. I'm going to say whatever it takes. And he said, okay, great. So he said, here's what I'm going to do. I'll be home in 10 days. I'm going to invite you out to my house. We're going to spend a couple weeks together. I'm going to mentor you. In the meantime, I'm going to send you a box and I want you to dive into this and study this stuff. I'm like, yes, he's going to send me all his secrets. He's going to send me all his scripts. Yes, yes. Finally, right? And it was prior to that box coming, we were having one of those strong conversations, me and my wife, and we were arguing about why the business isn't growing. Why are we playing? I don't get it. I work my butt off. I kill for this family. All right, blah, blah, blah. And she looks at me and she goes, Réal, till you fix what you need to fix inside your four walls, our business will never grow. And I remember going, what the heck are you talking about? That has nothing to do with our business. And when this box came, I remember my wife was with me. She was in the driver's seat. I was in here. I was so excited. I ran down with this big box and I'm ripping it out. I'm ripping it open. And it's like, how to work on your marriage, how to get the demons out of your life, how to be. And I'm like, what the heck is this? And my wife's looking at me and she's going, you don't get it, do you? So, personally, you need to fix what's inside your four walls. You need to learn to not self medicate externally, whatever that looks like, and be able to fix yourself within. And I believe it starts with, um, you know, um, finding your higher power, whatever that may be. Because when I used to think Real's got it, it was a shit show. But once I learned that my higher power, when God's got it works out all good.
Yeah, it's a different mindset, definitely, and it's one of those things. Some people may reach a certain level of success, but still have those demons, the things behind closed doors. And like you said, you can't truly align kind of who you are or who those personal relationships are, and how they are in terms of their health and that financial and business success, unless you kind of take care of yourself and get yourself right first.
Hmm. Amen. Hashtag truth. Mic drop.
So I really appreciate you stopping by today. Can you let the audience know how they can find you?
Yes, absolutely. My main website is www.realandrews, that's my name.com. All my social media links is at Rail Andrews. I'm on Clubhouse, and in my social media, I have the link. You can click on that, subscribe to my podcast, my YouTube channel. I appreciate the support. Follow me. My main thing is Instagram, I guess, at Rail Andrews, and that's it. And in the top right corner of my website, there's a button. I love people. Click it. Schedule a virtual coffee date with me, and we can just sit and chat. Whatever.
Awesome. Thanks again for stopping by.
All right. Thanks for having me, brother. Appreciate you.